Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The mission of the Freehold Township School District is to honor and support every learner every day on the journey to become curious and engaged members of a diverse global community. A notice listing the time, date, and place of this meeting was posted on the public bulletin board of all Freehold Township schools, on the entrance door to the administrative offices of the Board of Education, on the district website, at the office of the Freehold Township Clerk, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 6th, 2023, and sent to the news transcript on January 4th, 2023. I'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Brand.
Present.
Mrs. Coslino.
Here.
Mr. Argiulo. Here. Mrs. O'Sullivan.
Present.
Mrs. Thoman.
Here.
Mrs. Venatoli.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Amoroso. Here. Mrs. Lambert.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from August 29th.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? No?
Okay.
Were we all here?
I believe so.
Yes, we will.
Wow, look at us. Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the executive session meeting minutes from August 29th, 2023. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
All right.
Motion carries. For President's remarks, I would like to echo what I put in an email to my fellow board members and thank all district personnel for their role in opening our schools up in the way that they opened this year, which is the best ever. Everything ran smoothly. Our buses ran smoothly. Our students came ready, happy, ready to learn. Our staff were ready to greet them. There's a lot of hiccups that can happen, and I'm sure we'll have a few and have had a few, but the reality is that to have an opening go as wonderfully as it did speaks volumes to the district personnel who planned and were there and made it happen. So from this Board of Education, thank you to all our district personnel for your role in opening our buildings as wonderfully as they did last week. A second order of business that I have to address because there's a lot of talk all around town are our PTO bagel sales. For years in our district, various PTOs would fundraise by selling bagels in our schools. I mean, for as long as I can remember, that happened. The kids enjoyed them. The PTOs enjoyed the fundraising. Unfortunately, pursuant to state and federal law, no food can be sold in any one of our buildings unless it meets the nutritional guidelines of state and federal law and is part of our food service program. So, what that does is allows bagel sales to occur, and Bob can correct me if I'm wrong, only on half days when our food service program, right?
Yeah, we're probably
And
straddling
that's
the line.
okay. We might
Yes.
that might be halfway
So
illegal. I don't know.
That would not happen at the ECLC because they have breakfast,
Okay.
but that would be the only time where there is no food service program. Is on the half days when lunch is not served.
Okay. I think that there are a lot of individuals who feel this was a Board of Education decision. It wasn't our decision to just take away bagel sales. It wasn't central office administration decision. This is just, we are operating within our federal and state mandates, and that's where we're at right now with the bagel sales. If you have anybody here or anybody watching from home, additional questions, concerns, you can feel free to email Mr. DeVita, and he would be happy to explain items further to you or maybe answer any questions if someone's trying to think outside the box. And to our PTOs, I know this undermines some of the money that you try to raise, and for that, I am truly sorry, but we have no choice in operating this way. So I just wanted to clear the air as to why that's occurring. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact Mr. DeVita.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just a thought. In some of the schools, we allow our kids to enter the building prior to the start of the actual school day.
So the school day, if you read the nutrition, the wellness policy, starts at 12:01 a.m. So yeah, so it's listen, and so what the rule of thumb is from 12:01 a.m. until 30 minutes after dismissal. All food sold on the campus must meet the nutritional guidelines and is supposed to be part of the food service program. And as I believe I've shared with the board, I believe next year is the first year that the state of New Jersey is lowering the threshold for mandatory breakfast from 20% free and reduced per building, not a district-wide number, but per building, to 10%. So when the law first came out 2 years ago, the only building that did not meet that threshold at that point in time was JJC, and they were at 9.5. If we only have one building out of 8 that doesn't meet that rule, I'm pretty sure we're gonna serve breakfast at all 8 buildings. So next year, and it was part of the RFP we put out as for or possible change to the food service program would be that for 24-25, breakfast is served in every building. So the state is very aware of the families that are struggling and their kids are coming to school hungry. This year, as I shared with the finance committee sometime in the summer, I don't remember what month it was, but they've actually expanded the population of students that will receive reduced lunches. I believe it went from 180% of the poverty level to 200%, and New Jersey's going to fund that 100%. So anybody that's God bless you.
Thank you.
Anybody that's reduced in the state of New Jersey will get a free lunch. So this was their step this year, and I believe it's for next year. 24-25 we'll be serving breakfast for everybody.
I have a question. If a PTO wanted to partner up with Sedesco, who is our vendor, not go to Eli's Bagels or wherever they're going, is that possible to keep to allow them to offer this program?
Here's
I
the
did have
problem.
this conversation with the PTO liaison committee. So they left with the understanding that that was something they can discuss with Rocio. I don't believe any of them thought that that was something they wanted to pursue.
But would it
Technically,
meet the nutritional guidelines?
Well, you would have to buy whatever bagels they got from their manufacturer, which would meet the guidelines. They would probably be smaller, probably wouldn't taste the same, and technically then the proceeds should go back to the food service program.
Right.
So the PTOs could have fundraisers and sell food, but it just can't be consumed on the premises until 30 minutes after the day is concluded. So you want to sell Snicker bars, you want to sell candy bars, sell whatever you want. It's got to be given to the students 8th period, take it home and eat it. That's the law.
And I can tell you that all of our PBS teams, like we've been talking about this. This is, I know it might be news to the families, but we knew the direction, and we just have to think outside the box. And I think Erickson is one of the schools whose PTO is organizing like a weekly like good or item that the parents can pre-purchase and it goes home. So there are workarounds, but as Bob said, we can't sell it and we can't consume it during the school day. And honestly, the bus drivers are asking that the bags that we send home should be stapled and sealed shut because they can't eat on the bus because they're driving the bus and they can't, be resuscitating kids. So just, we have to be careful.
And even when we had our wellness policy committee last year, one of the parents is a PTO member, and she read the policy and she said, does this policy mean we can't have bagel sales? I said, that's what it means. So if you read the policy, and it's pretty clear.
And like I said, this is something we discussed at the last PTO liaison meeting of the year. And we were going to start the year with brainstorming other alternatives. So the PTOs were aware before the start of the school, well before the start of the school year.
I have to bring news to my son because tomorrow is Wednesday and he's not getting a bagel in school. And I told him to call you.
To me. Was it thanks? Have you met me? I love bread. I would be. Yeah, I could give everyone get bagels, but no, no, I know, and I saw something posted on social media. I did have one person ask me about it, but that was 2 weeks ago, asking if the rumor was true. And I do think it's kind of floating out there, maybe because school just started and it's hitting the parent level. And right.
It's not just gonna be us.
Where you get it the whole year, and you don't have to worry about it. I didn't even see that form come home. I think something about PBS cookie sales or something, but nothing about bagels. So now you mentioned that's why I didn't see that.
Right.
It's a highly regulated industry because of the billions of dollars the federal government provides and the states provide their millions. It's very regulated.
So I just want to put that out there, put that to rest for anyone that happens to be listening. With that, I'll move to the administrative report, SSDS report for reporting period 2.
I'm going to give the other report first.
Okay.
I'm pleased to share our opening days of school have been very positive for our students and staff. It might have been one of the best openings yet, and everybody in the district played a role in making it successful, and I would like to thank everybody who played a role in getting us to where we were on Thursday. We started off with our staff the Friday prior, and if you were required to be here before Labor Day, I can't imagine a better way than being together. We celebrated staff that received tenure. Each school celebrated each other in recognition of how outstanding our staff is in preparing for another school year. And we had a wonderful keynote by Cornelius Minor, who really focused on the need to pivot in teaching to meeting our students where they are, different learners than we had in the past, in engaging environments and building connections. It was a wonderful opening. And on our opening day with students, there were minimal transportation issues, both in the morning and in the afternoon. As Mr. DeVita shared at a prior meeting, we are experiencing air conditioning issues in specific locations across the district. While these issues were exacerbated by the extreme heat the first 2 days of school, our maintenance staff worked diligently to place portable air conditioning units in locations that they could, with limited or no air. In some cases, we did have to relocate, and we only have so many units, so they have to be prioritized. The issue is not that we don't have the capacity to perform the work. The issue is we're waiting on parts and work that must be performed by contractors to resolve those air conditioning units. And until we can do that, we will keep the portable units in places and have to relocate until they come in. And we're at the mercy of the manufacturers and the contractors to resolve those issues.
We don't have any estimates as to when that'll be complete.
It passed. Right, Bob? We had the estimate. The date passed.
Correct.
Several times.
So the problem is that one of the large manufacturers, Train is the manufacturer. Every single unit that they shipped did not have what's called a backnet card in it, and so when they put the unit on top of the roof, it will run at the manufacturer setting. So air conditioning is set at 75, heat set at 71, but because the card's not in there, we can't tie that unit into the computer, which can then we could set it to our set points, which is typically about 72 for AC and usually 72 for heat as well. And then when we go into unoccupied mode, the air conditioning number goes here and the heating number goes there. So right now they're running constantly at 75. So staff have made comments in the buildings that have those units. It's warm here. What, do you not have the air on? No, the air is on, but because when it gets getting cooler at night now, the units don't run. So, and then they don't kick back on until the room temperature gets to be 75 again. So, and we've had the first shipment of backnet cards. We had 14, I believe it's 30 something that were owed. 14 came in, they were installed, but now we need the second contractor to come out and actually hook them into the controls. It's over at Katina. All the other buildings that have it don't. So, as well as Mr. Dixon said, there are some parts that are missing. There are 2 units over at Erickson. The heat exchanger cracked, which I called the county office. We've declared an emergency, so I don't have to go out and bid it, but we're waiting for prices to come back and then for someone to get us a heat exchanger so we could have it installed. That unit's down. There's portables in the room. And then at the cafeteria at Erickson, there's a motor that blew. We can install the motor. We're just waiting for the motor to come from the manufacturer. So we have to rent a small crane, get up on the roof, and then our team could actually install it. We just don't have the part. So that's the issue. everything that we need, there's shortages everywhere still. So
So the buildings right now should be operational at 75 right now?
correct,
In some
with the
places.
exception
Yeah,
of
the
the two units over at Erickson are running by portables, and unfortunately, in the larger spaces, and because the electric system's a little bit older, we can only run two portables at a time unless we trip or otherwise the breaker will trip. So when it was really hot, it didn't do much. It really wasn't ideal, but it was the best we can do. We'd have to go buy. There's a unit at West Freehold when the chiller went down. It's about $8,000. We'd have to buy 7 more of them, and then have someone run a giant wire for us and run it to a different panel. We just didn't have time. Nobody knew it was going to be 95 degrees that first week. So, but I have a meeting tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get an update in terms of where we are with prices and with the parts. But even this morning with the contractor, Chapel is the contractor right now. They're arguing every day with Train, and Train's being difficult. So what'll happen now is to keep the contractor out of it, so this way they get Train to do what they need him to do. The architect will step in because the architect is the gatekeeper. They're the ones that specify the brand, and because we had Train on the roof, it was easy to do Train again. Otherwise, sometimes the curbs that they sit on have to be modified, and that could cause roofing issues. So the architect is going to reach out to Train again to apply some pressure on some of the things that are happening. So they're big. It's almost like they don't care. They apologize on the phone, but yeah, that's where we're
So
at.
all of it is not for a lack of communication, not because we're not, it's not financial. It's availability of parts and
We've
a
had the
shortage of
units
parts.
since May or June. They didn't come with the cards, so
each year, on the first day of school, I go around to each of the schools and with the administrators, teachers, teacher assistants in the classroom, take pictures with our kindergarten students so that the parents and guardians have a little memento of their child's first day in kindergarten. I want to just take a moment to thank Kids at Heart. Kids at Heart is the photographer that we've been using for years for our school photos. They volunteer their time and the resources to take the pictures. So they went to all 5 schools with me. We were out, how long was that? 2.5 hours at all of the schools. Joe is the owner of the company. He's amazing with the kids. He knows kids' name, like he remembers kids, especially those that moved from ECLC. So he is also he's taking the time after taking the photos to make sure all the names are correct on them. He's really putting a lot of time
That's
into
wonderful.
it. So I want to recognize Kids at Heart and thank him for doing that.
That's great.
Also, I'm pleased to share 4 of our staff members in the fall will be presenting at upcoming conferences. Bonnie Hohenschultz, who is our supervisor of math and science, will be teaming with Meg Campion, who is a science teacher at Eisenhower. They're presenting at the New Jersey Science Teachers Convention, Scientists as Readers, Building and Using a Library in the Science Lab. And also, Lori Gambino, principal of Eisenhower, and Anthony Giratano, assistant principal at Eisenhower, will be presenting at the National American Middle Level Educators Conference, Building Connection through the Advisory Program. They'll be sharing the implementation and evolution of the advisory program at Eisenhower. And that seems to be a common theme of our staff presenting at various conferences, which is wonderful.
That's great.
And now we can move on to the fun SSDS. So this is the data for reporting period 2. We had a total of 78 incidents in reporting period 2 in the 22-23 school year. 3 incidents of violence, 0 vandalism, 0 substances, 0 weapons, 75 confirmed harassment, intimidation, and bullying, 34 alleged harassment, intimidation, and bullying claims that were unfounded, and 43 other incidents leading to removal, which means suspension.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, Neil, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
It seems that most of this is coming from the Eisenhower School. And compared to the 2021, I know the policy has changed so that smaller incidences are also reported. But even in 21-22, there's a 50% increase over the student safety data system. Why is there any obvious reason or
Are you talking specifically about harassment, intimidation, or bullying, or?
in total? The incidences in total have gone up from 76 in 21-22 to 114 in 22-23.
It would have to be specific, more specific to the type. So the only thing I can talk about, the incident total, I can't comment on because it depends on the more of the sub types of what they are. And the only one I can really speak to is harassment, intimidation, and bullying. That was increased this year. My belief is it has a lot to do with social media, but we also had a targeted effort and addressed, so did some training in small groups with students about what harassment, intimidation, bullying is and what the consequences are for that. When you shine the light on something, the reporting goes up, and we saw the reporting go up.
And
And that's in concert with the change in the law.
Diane talked about that.
Hmm.
Eisenhower seems to be the
Both middle schools. Eisenhower had more than Barkalow this year.
much
but
more
both middle
much more
schools.
so though, like twice as much.
Neil, just correct me if I'm not remembering correctly, but we made a significant effort in the middle school to kind of see something, say something. So we spoke to the students about the new law and what bullying was and all of that, and actually more people stepped up with complaints.
Yes.
Also, one, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you see incident totals, that's per incident. You can have one building, and just think about this when comparing a building per building. You can have one building that can have 13 incidents, that could be 13 different students, and another building have 20, where it might just be one student who had 20 different incidents that was requiring, multiple levels of intervention or whatever the case may be. So it's hard to do a building level comparison without digging a little deeper, which wouldn't be done in a public meeting at this, for student privacy reasons. But if you needed, I guess, more information, you
But
could talk
also,
to
I
Neil.
think when you spoke, you inadvertently said 78 went to 114, but you're reading it wrong. Period 1 was 36, period 2 was 78, and the sum of those two is 114.
The year before, 21,
Oh,
22.
I don't have that in front of me.
I don't have it in front
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah, that I don't have.
So hopefully next year we'll have a better number.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. With that, we will move on to our first opportunity for public participation. If anyone wishes to address the board, please write your name and address. On the sign-in sheet, state your name. At the podium, statements are limited to 3 minutes and shouldn't be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature. This opportunity to address the board would be to either make a comment or ask a question about any item that's on the agenda this evening. If it's not on the agenda this evening, we have a second opportunity for public participation later in the meeting. Would anyone like to address the board? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the public hearing regarding the SSDS report that you just heard. So should I just read that? Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education shall open the public hearing on the SSDS reporting period 2 for the school year 2022-2023. Are there any public comments regarding the SSDS reporting? Okay. Seeing none, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education shall close the public hearing on the SSDS reporting period 2 for the school year 2022-2023. And with that, I'll move right into personnel. Ms. O'Sullivan?
Okay. We had a committee meeting today, and the following people were in attendance: Dr. Berthauer, Mr. Dickstein, Mr. Gardulio, Ms. Meg Truman, and myself. We discussed and reviewed the agenda items, and we also discussed staffing updates. Okay. Number 3, resignations as listed. I'd like to move number 3. Number 4, I'd like to move new employment as listed. Number 5, adjusted start date as listed. Number 6, rescind offer of employment as listed. Number 7, long-term substitute as listed. Number 8, change of assignment, 2023-2024 as listed. Number 9, salary adjustments as listed. Number 10, district honoraria as listed. Number 11, district honoraria update as listed. Number 12, PTO honoraria update as listed. Number 13, district mentors as listed. Number 14, standing orders of school nurses as listed. Number 15, summer IEP meetings as listed. Number 16, additional compensation, transfer of assignment and moves as listed. Number 17, additional compensation, CPI and safety care training as listed. Number 18, certified substitutes as listed. Number 19, position control as listed. Number 20, termination of employment as listed. And that is it.
Does anybody have any questions on any of these items? Okay. Seeing none, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call?
Mrs. Brand,
Yes.
Mrs. Cozzolino.
Yeah.
Mr. Gargiulo,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Sullivan,
Yes.
Mrs. Spellman.
Yeah.
Mrs. Venatori.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Amoroso,
Yes.
Mrs. Lambert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to curriculum and policy committee, Ms. Coslino.
The Curriculum and Policy Committee met tonight. Present were Mr. Amoroso, Mr. Williams, Mrs. Montgomery, myself, and Superintendent Dickstein for a little bit. We discussed all the items on the agenda, the policy changes, any questions we had. We discussed the back-to-school PD. Neil described some of the speakers that occurred. It was 3 days where staff really had an opportunity to come and be trained on a number of topics: CPI and safety, math and science for elementary schools, PD on middle school, math and science technology resources that are now available, among a host of a bunch of other trainings that took place during that time. We also discussed the high intensity tutoring grant, which we will be, as a district, applying for. Mrs. Montgomery is preparing that. That has the potential to bring us in $230,000.
Wow.
And we will be asking for all of that, I believe, right? Yes.
Okay, that's great.
So I would like to move item number 3, the course reimbursements as listed. Number 4, the rescind course reimbursements as listed. Bless you. That's okay. The first reading of policies and regulations, policy number 1642.01, policy number 2419, regulation number 1642.01, and regulation number 2419. And then the second, that's for first reading. Number 6, second reading of regulation R8330. And number 7, the teacher practicum observations placements as listed. Number 8, the SSDS reporting period 2 as listed, which Neil described in his report. Number 9, the partnership agreement with Monmouth University. That's it.
Anybody have any questions? Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Finance, Facilities, and Transportation, Ms. Venditoli. Mike.
Okay, the Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee did not meet this week, so I'm going to just move the agenda items. Number 2, bills and claims. Thank you, Mr. Amoroso. Total bills, $1,446,514.39. Payroll, $755,387.15, for a grand total of $2,201,901.54. Number 3, travel and related expenses as listed. Number 4, the consultant ratify as listed. Number 5, out-of-district transportation contracts MOASC as listed. Number 6, the IDEA basic and preschool fiscal year 2024 grant as listed. Number 7, the high impact tutoring grant application as listed. And number 8, the transfers as listed.
Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Seeing none, can I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. And moving on. Old business, new business. By now, I don't know if you've all seen the back to school night calendars. If you haven't updated your availability as to which back to school night you're attending, please do that. It was sent, I think, first by Cindy and then a week later by Neil. You should have 2 emails with a link to the calendar with Laura Donovan's school last night. And that was lovely until those people that were there got stuck there because the road was flooded. So that was an unfortunate end to an otherwise lovely evening. And we're looking forward to going to basically all the rest of, the back to school nights. I believe it's Katina on Thursday. Do we have one tomorrow? Tomorrow night, Eisenhower. And then Thursday's Katina. Okay. And then, right.
Pretty much through October.
So through October 4th, ending last but not least with always our littlest people at the ECLC. So anyway, so if you haven't updated the calendar, please do so because we do like to make sure we have coverage in all the buildings, and we wouldn't want to inadvertently leave somebody out because you all have your own back to school nights as well as other obligations. If we can work with each other, we'd like to do that. Other than that, does anybody else have anything they want to add? Yes?
I just want to say, I was a little disappointed you didn't sing this year. But other than that, I thought the welcome back was amazing as usual.
Yes.
Michelle and I had a really great time. Mr. Minor, fabulous. I mean, I told Michelle maybe we need him for our board retreat. It was just a really great, I mean, the energy in the room. I know Erickson and Donovan have this thing going on, but just in total, the energy in the room was amazing. And it was so great to see everybody back in the one spot and the buses pulling in and
Yes.
the pom-poms and the signs and just the pure excitement that everybody was having to go into the next day. But I do expect a song again next year.
I had to park closer to here, and I got out of my car and I said, "Is that a cowbell? Why do I feel like I hear a cowbell?" And I just kept walking. Yes, that would be Diane out front with the cowbell greeting everybody as they got off the bus.
I helped Jen get into a tiger costume in the parking lot.
So,
Inflatable tiger costume in the
Wow.
parking
Yeah.
lot. Yes. I mean,
right.
The schools really brought their
yes,
best
they
Oh,
did.
they really did. It was infectious. It was great.
Michelle and I even tried to do the she tried to teach me how to tie my shoe
Yeah.
or put
We
my
both
shoe
had
on.
flip-flops
We both had
on.
flip flops on, but
were
we
failures.
persevered.
Yeah,
But
we did.
it was definitely, I really enjoyed it, and I really just think that it was a great start to the year, and I hope
Right.
that you got positive feedback from everyone.
We did.
Yes.
We got a lot of positive feedback. I shared with my committee earlier. I think one of the pieces that was really telling for me, just specifically about the keynote. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry. One of the
interesting pieces about the feedback that I got specifically about Mr. Minor's keynote was I got positive feedback from both preschool teachers and middle school teachers. Like he managed to read the room and in his planning meetings with Neil and myself, really understood what it was that our staff needed to hear. And he tailored his presentation to a room that included people that teach 3-year-olds and people that teach algebra. And everyone walked away feeling really, really positive and excited about the year ahead.
Is there a link to his video to his address or no?
We did not record it.
Oh,
One of the
The
best
prizes were great too. There
Yes.
was,
there were
I think,
prizes. I missed out on this.
that
One
we
of the
missed out
most-
on.
one of the most effective pieces of him being here is that he's a teacher. He teaches 7th grade literacy in New York City, and that credibility of walking the talk is great.
Add about the prizes that we have been putting out a lot of thank yous, but a lot of our vendors donated all of those prizes like willingly. So from Dell to Renaissance to Linkit and even our business office colleagues, right? Gallagher made a lot of donations of gift cards for teachers, and it was just really great to see that our vendors came through again this year. So thank you to all. Letters went out from Neil's office thanking them, but on Twitter and other social media, we did thank them too.
What that s'mores one
Yeah, yeah. If,
together.
I was just gonna say, if anybody
that was-
ever needs a gift to get Michelle, make her a s'mores basket with the sticks.
Oh,
the
wait, where did
marshmallows,
that
the
one come
chocolate,
from?
Came from
Little
us.
fire.
We wanted to contribute something.
She really wanted that
Vendor put
basket.
the Hershey bars in there. I don't know. Okay, that was great.
So,
Okay.
birthday, anybody?
Yeah.
S'mores basket.
Yeah, it's in 2 weeks, so. Yeah, no, I echo what Carrie said. It was, I've gone to many opening day addresses in my tenure on this board, and that one by far just the energy was unmatched previously, I have to say. Unmatched. They've all been great in their own way throughout the years, but there was a certain enthusiasm that I really hope carries the individuals in that room for as long as possible because it was a beautiful thing. So with that,
I have one thing. Sorry.
yes.
Try to piggyback what you said about being at Donovan last night, the flooding aside. I got to spend some time last night. I mean, I've talked to my bus driver that picks up my daughters every day and thanked her for an awesome opening. I did get to spend some time with the custodians last night at Donovan and thank them. The school looked great. They did an awesome job. I missed Dennis, unfortunately. He was busy doing his job, but I did speak to a couple, and you could just see someone stopping in and just saying, you guys did awesome this summer. The schools are great. It just the 3-4 minutes I spent there was fantastic, and you could tell they definitely appreciated that time.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, buildings like,
yeah.
yeah, better than ever. Any other comments? With that, we'll move on to the second opportunity for public participation. If anyone wishes to address the board on any item affecting the district, please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet. State your name for the record. Statements are limited to 3 minutes and should not be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature.
Good evening. My name's Carmela Spieler, and that sounds like a great opening, and I can tell that we have a great staff, and we've always had, I don't know if Karen is still part of the PTO, but we've always had such, when my kids were little. So I know those are the shakers and movers, and I do appreciate that. And everybody here who volunteers, if I've never told you so, I thank you, because I know that you really give your blood, sweat, and tears to do this. I do have, on a different note, I have some serious questions that I would like to ask the board, and if you can answer me at the end, I would appreciate that, or some conclusion. So last year or so, I watched this board shut down a meeting and walk out because parents were not wearing a face covering during this meeting. And it was a mandate and not a law. So I want to know parents and children should be able to decide for themselves if face coverings, which is a medical device, is a beneficial risk benefit, basically, that everybody needs to make for themselves. And this is what we all do. We make those decisions. Whether you're going to eat this or you're going to eat that, I get to decide for me, and you should get to decide for you. And when I, as an educator, looked at my students during the pandemic and saw all those eyes without a face looking back at me, it was very depressing for all of us to see that. And some of the students were hiding behind the mask, socially, emotionally. These children were not developing. I watched students regress, even at the high school level. And one student in particular was so sad that even after the masks were removed, he chose to continue to wear it. And it broke my heart. He was a very shy student. He was introverted. He wasn't really interacting with students. My class is a cooperative class where everybody works together, and he was just completely withdrawn. And I couldn't even hear him. Like, I'd have to go over to him and almost ask him to remove it and pull it down. So I believe that they're emotionally harmful. Educationally, they affect their education level. They're just, we've already had such a loss, right? We're at a loss with this pandemic that just brought these children backwards, and we have learning loss that we need to make up. So they're not beneficial, and I'd like to know where the board stands on that. And we're breathing in our own excrement, because CO2 is something that we breathe out and not breathe in. And I actually have an article with me. It comes from the CDC. It starts off, I actually have the article back there, so I'm not going to grab that, called Non-Pharmaceutical Measures, meaning the masks, whether they work, and it goes on about hygiene and stuff. And it says, in our systemic review, we identified 10 random control trials that reported estimates of effectiveness of face masks in reducing laboratory confirmed influenza virus infections in a community, and basically that it did not work. Disposable masks, also known as surgical masks, which everybody wasn't even wearing a surgical mask, are designed worn by medical personnel to protect accidental contamination. So there was limited evidence about the effectiveness. This is an article from the CDC showing you that it didn't work. It was, I believe, the article from 2021. I'll leave you with the hard copy if you would like that.
Thank you.
And so, given what we know,
The 3 minutes.
yeah, I would like to know where the board stands on that. Thank you.
The let me be clear. The public participation is an opportunity for the public to ask a question. If it can be answered by an appropriate administrator, it has something to do. We allow the answering of questions, but it's not meant to be a dialogue between the board and the public. And since the mask mandate has been the subject of not only litigation, but other issues in our town, I'm going to direct this board not to answer that question right now. If you want to email anyone individually, they can answer you as an individual if they so choose, but not as a board. And sitting in these seats, we speak for the board, and we will not be speaking on that subject right now.
Okay, but everybody's clear about how you guys operated before, like stepping out and, not allowing people
We
to
will
have
not,
choice.
we
Yeah,
will
I
not make a
understand.
comment on that.
The only thing I want to make clear to the public that's watching is that there is no mask requirement in our schools for
Of
anybody
course.
at this
Oh,
time.
yeah, no.
I just want to make that clear that nobody misinterprets that.
Okay. Okay. Would anybody else like to address the board? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.